Oh, the weather outside is frightful. The discussion in here is delightful. And since we've no need for snow, let it go, let it go, let it go.
Ryan, if there's anything that you want that you missed, we're gonna take our kids this in June. My husband and I we're gonna take our kids to go see my dad.
Are you?
So yeah, if there's anything that you need, let me know.
So be careful with that because
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Moreno Valley Think Tank. Today our conversation is about the IFT grant, Reaching Our Youth. It was received by the Anaheim Secondary Teachers Association, and we have Anaheim High School teacher Ryan Rellis with us today to talk about the grant. Ryan,
Hi.
Could you tell us a little bit about the grant, why you, what it's about, and what the effect of it has been?
Absolutely. Last year I was very fortunate to work with some colleagues, and we wrote a grant that we were awarded through IFT entitled Students Leading Students, Creating Change in Anaheim. And that focused on more or less 4 high schools in our district, the East Side schools. And a lot of this was student-led, student-driven, and focused mostly on civic engagement. This year, Reaching Our Youth, we decided to take it a little bit deeper in the sense where we are having those 4 high schools participate again, yes, and they're very excited and they have their own civic engagement groups at their local school site. But we're now reaching out to students at the junior high level, and we're also establishing relationships with students at the elementary school level, whether that be through sports camps or whether that be through after-school tutoring. Our goal is to establish a new pipeline where students themselves through K through 12 basically understand that all school districts are working to ensure that they're receiving a top-notch education and that they're aware of their community and they care about their community.
So my understanding is Anaheim High School, Catella High School, Loera High School, and Savannah High School.
That's correct. Those are the high schools.
And this is more student-led in terms of the civic engagement projects that they are working on.
Definitely. I'm a firm believer of that the students themselves, they need to be empowered. And myself, as well as my colleagues, our job is basically to just be more of a facilitator in this whole process itself. We put a lot of big focus on the whole issue of the soft skills, the P21 skills of collaboration, communication, critical thinking, and creativity. And we added the 5th C, which is character. And everything that the students do, they illustrate these 5 C's. They're the ones that are basically collaborating with one another, high school with high school. They're the ones that are basically leading the charge. The high school students are the ones leading the charge with the high school and their feeder junior high school. And the high school students are also the ones that are leading the examples and the model to students at the elementary school of, hey, we're going to play basketball this Saturday, but before we do, we're going to talk about 30 minutes, all of which is student-led, and talk about goal setting, talk about managing your time, talk about how to take notes properly, etc. So we want to tie in both academics to this, as well as the whole issue of fun, sports, extracurricular activity, and of course, in my attitude, the most important part is civic engagement.
So what are some examples of the civic engagement projects that you're doing on top of the camaraderie, easy for me to say, building that's happening like through those basketball games? What are some of the civic engagement pieces?
Yeah, so some of the civic engagement pieces themselves we have done include in Anaheim itself, we've had one school that did a package where they basically went through and they collected a lot of socks. They went through and collected a lot of donations. They created these care packages because unfortunately we have a large homeless population in Anaheim that are camped along the Santa Ana riverbed. And they basically created this. This was all student-led. They're the ones that basically organized it. They're the ones that collected, wrote letters to the community asking for gift cards. They're the ones that basically went and collected hygiene products. They're the ones that basically went and collected all the socks and created these packages and whatnot. So that's one school itself. You have another school like Anaheim High School, for example, where we said, hey, let's utilize this serve-a-thon, because we started about 3 years ago, we started using Martin Luther King Day as a serve-a-thon day, where instead of having that day off, let's do some service and give back to the community. And I thought, what a great way to introduce students at the elementary school about the importance of this day. So what we did was we took those 4 high schools, we paired them up with 4 of the elementary schools. They each had their own projects in the community, and we all were able to gather up around either Anaheim High School, if you were working in that area, or Paul Revere Elementary School, if you were working in that area. And then we celebrated this day of service itself with, of course, tacos. Viva el taquero.
So I want to kind of open it up to the group to start thinking about, okay, so IFT grants are teacher-driven change. And how is this impacting, do you think, the teaching and learning environment when this is now taking teacher-driven change and driving it down to student-driven change? How does that change the work that we do and what we can accomplish in the education arena?
Well, I like the point where you mentioned the unification of these students and the identity of just their high school to the district and that collaboration among all of the different schools.
That's absolutely right. And, you know, it's great for schools to have school pride, no doubt about it, you know. I think that's fantastic. However, the thing is that what we found with this grant itself and through the collaborative efforts of all parties involved, we've really become less focused just on our individualized school of, yay, this is my school, I'm so excited, to more so of, yay, I'm proud to be a product of the Anaheim Union High School District. Hey, I'm proud to be a product of public schools. And that, for us, was super beneficial.
So much bigger than
absolutely.
just your little school. And I also loved when you were talking about the kids and you were saying that they were going to make you know, a presentation, and then the people were like, are you sure that they're gonna? And you were like, yeah, they're gonna be, and they were incredible, and it's really giving them these great skills of you know, advocating for themselves and being able to answer questions and being able to, you know, to think critically, like you said. I love the skills that you're giving to them. It's not just you taking them places and doing things for them. It's really them saying, this is, you know, important. We see this need in our community, and we want to help, and we can you know, advocate for us. We can advocate for other students. I think that's such an important skill to give to kids. And
I'm very fortunate that I come from a very progressive district in the sense that actually believes that, because you'd be surprised. I mean, it's a very adults have to do a paradigm shift when it is about releasing responsibility. No more in today's day and age can we have everything be in our instruction teacher-centric, you know? It's all about the students. It's about the students working together and illustrating these soft skills that are truly going to get them ready for college and career.
And it is. That's a paradigm shift, you know,
absolutely.
in the education world, because the teacher used to be I stand in the front of the room and I give the knowledge and I decide how I'm going to give that, and you are the receivers of the knowledge. And it's not like that anymore. But I mean, we still have a lot of old school teachers who that's a difficult shift for them.
So that's what I see as the biggest change, is that the role of the teacher. It's moving from that teacher-centered to a facilitator role.
That's right.
Yeah, you no longer can be the sage on the stage.
That's right. That's right.
Right on the side.
Yeah, that's very good.
And you know, as I mentioned earlier, you know, I mean, being the facilitator, I have to tell you, oh my gosh, it is, number one, just amazing to just really, especially once you get the kids and the kids are engaged in conversation and whatnot, but it's really teaching them a valuable skill set itself by modeling it, you know, which is this whole idea of inquiry, you know. Too often is the case is you take things at face value, you know, and students don't ask why, you know. Well, you got to ask why. Start asking why. Why can't we do this? Why can't we change this? Why can't we, you know, and as a result, by us educators modeling that to the students, they themselves have realized, dang, this is a valuable skill. And I've seen it right now through this project, them utilizing it with one another to inquire and ask about their certain projects that they're doing, but also modeling it to the younger students that you need to ask questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Ask, and ask, because that's the only way you're going to grow.
So I want to bring this back to our think tank and the focus of our think tank around what we've termed strength-based justice. So as you're looking at as education as a restorative practice and restorative practices in education, how do we see a grant like this focused on civic engagement, focused on student voice? How does that play, or how does that connect to our strength-based justice movement or our the emphasis here? How does that?
I think it's how we look at children. How do we look at youth? I mean, youth. Sometimes we can look at them as receptacles. I'm thinking of Pink Floyd, the song, right?
I love Pink Floyd.
Yeah. You got the assembly line, and we're putting things in opening their heads and putting things in them as they were receptacles, right? So I mean, we had to look at youth as coming with funds of knowledge, with experiential knowledge. And they're coming to us with that. We just got to be the people who tap into that knowledge and discover that knowledge. And then what I really like what you're doing is that you're not only using the components of a positive youth development model, which teaches competency skills, caring, and confidence, but at the end, they're becoming contributors back to the so those are lifelong learning skills that they'll use the rest of their life.
That they'll take to college, and then
Yes.
they'll take, to beyond that, and they'll be able to, like you said, teach, younger kids as well. I mean, we're not just teaching them how to read and write. We're teaching them, like you said, these, I don't know if they're called.
All 7
Soft skills
areas driving for success. All the 7 factors are inherent in your program, what you're doing.
And like I mentioned before, growing up, the mentality was you're going to do well in school, you're going to go to college, and you're going to get out of crime. But we don't want that mentality anymore. Our attitude is, and I want the kids to understand, is if there's a problem in our city and there's a problem in the community, well, do something about it. If you just stand there and walk past it and you're like, oh, okay, well, you know what? Shame on you, because you're part of that problem then. But if you see it, address it, and let's fix it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really stoked and really excited about this grant, and that the kids have been super receptive about it, because as you mentioned earlier, these are lifelong skills. And I hope the kids do go away to college and whatnot. But instead of staying away, I want them to come back and make our city a greater place.
And that's a great segue coming from higher education in this group, and I will agree with both what Morgan and Henry have said here just in the past minutes. We talk about lifelong learning a lot, but it often fails on its surface because they're not educated in a manner in secondary school where they can empower themselves, because they're all on their own in higher education. So if they are not able to empower themselves, we have lost a generation.
That's right.
And so by empowering themselves as far down the list as 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, you're empowering them so that when we see them in higher education, we don't have to double our education in half the time by teaching the soft skills along with the material. And furthermore, they take the initiative themselves to learn more, to become the educated persons they are, to make it a holistic experience at higher education, which many of us, the reason we did go to education is because we remember the holistic experience. And a lot of students don't have it. So you're actually doing something that we appreciate at higher education. So thank you.
That brings a whole nother flavor, another layer to strength-based communities. Like how do we repair or enhance communities like in east side of Anaheim or in San Bernardino, Moreno Valley? How do we use our students in their civic engagement so that they're not thinking, I need to graduate and leave, but I need to graduate and give back? So that, all of this does another layer to that. And as I think about, coming up, we have this strength-based Justice Summit coming in April. I believe our dates are April 16th, 17th of 2018. How do we use the appreciative inquiry, and how do we use everything that we've learned from the grants that we have in our area to bring to the summit, to bring the people that need to be at the table to have these conversations about how we empower our students, how we bring this strength-based philosophy, to our areas, to our school districts, and to our students, and to our teachers for that matter. How do we look at that in terms of the summit and the preacher inquiry? How do we envision that going?
You know, it's very, I mean, it's very interesting because of the fact that, like, I can, and I'll just go back to the whole issue of the presentation. My school district has been fantastic, 100% supportive of this. And then they started hearing more and more and more of the power of what was going on. And they wanted a presentation of it. And this was last year with the grant. And they asked me if, you know, me and the other advisor would present. And I said, well, wait a minute. You know, the title of the grant that we wrote last year was, you know, students leading students. This is all student-centered, etc. It's going to be kind of like contradictory if we're talking about all the amazing things that the students have done, but we, the adults, are the ones presenting. You know, so what we've found to be fantastic is actually having students be the ambassadors to this. Have the students be the ones that go out and promote it themselves. Okay, so for example, in one of the projects that we're doing this year, okay, in Anaheim Union High School District, we're very excited about something called the Pledge, and this is a group of individual stakeholders that have all gotten together, and we've said, your student, if they go to school in the Anaheim Union High School District, they're going to receive a top-notch education, 7 through grade, 14, because of the fact that we have a great partnership with Fullerton Community College, great partnership with Cal State Fullerton, and UC Irvine itself. This is amazing stuff. So what our students have done is we have a cohort of about 30 students now who basically have learned the ins and outs of the pledge. And our goal is for these 30 students now that are ambassadors of what is going on in AUHSD with this pledge, they're then going to train 30 more students. Because our goal is on a Saturday to just hit the streets and talk and celebrate public education. Because too often is the case that individuals within the community, they just hear negative stuff going on, when in fact, there are some amazing things going on in our district, and we're proud of it. So I would encourage, when you do this summit, to really try and have, if you're talking about something that's dealing with student-driven, then let's have some students there to basically serve as those ambassadors, in my opinion.
I hear the passion and the energy when you speak, Brian, and it makes me think about the program is a perfect vehicle for that passion and drive of those students, and you're giving them that opportunity to connect and find possible career paths that fit community service and collaboration and this creative energy that's being directed towards things that are needed.
Thank you. Yeah, I already have a future mayor picked out from what I'm like, come on, finish up, Halo, come back to Anaheim,
So, all right, well, I want to thank everybody for being here today, and I'm Nikki Tresky on behalf of the Moreno Valley Think Tank. Thank you, Ryan, for sharing your grant with us today,
so
and
much.
we look forward to seeing you at our summit in April.
Go to the summit.